Hello everybody, my name is Bradley. Welcome back into another Civilization 6 video where today we are talking all about appeal. Before we get started, I just want to do a quick chat about two other things that are quite appealing if you ask me. The first of those very appealing options you have to do today would be to click the subscribe button so you can become one of the almost 6,500 people who have joined the YouTube channel to go on a Civilization 6 journey and occasionally watch some dumb Pokemon videos because we have fun doing that as well. I'm making things up on the fly here, but you now have three super appealing options. The second of which is to head over to our Twitch channel, link in the description, hit this follow button, and then you can watch us play Civ live a few times a week. It's a great time. There's lots of people there, almost 2,500 of you. It's fantastic. Would love to see you on the Twitch stream. Come say hi. And finally, we have a Discord server. So many of you join the server every time I pitch this. It's incredible, so I'm going to pitch it again. We have a general chat where we can talk about Taylor Swift's new re-release of the Red album. That's very exciting. We got a load of space in here to talk about Civilization, where I will give you a canalysis if you post a photo of your Panama Canal. Basically, it's just a cool place to hang out and be awesome and just be with the awesome community, so you should join the Discord server. We are now back in the game and ready to talk about appeal, so buckle in. This is going to take me a minute. Just keep in mind that there's no way I'm going to be able to cover every single appeal-related thing in this video because there are many appeal-related things. So as always, you guys are incredible. The comments section is like an additional, it's like, you know, you've read the book, but you have like the author's take past the ending. That happens in the comments where people will say things I missed or their opinions on things I've said, and it's like a second resource. So make sure you head down in the comments. People love pointing out things I missed or things they think I got wrong, and that can be another resource for you, so make sure you do that. All right, appeal. Appeal is basically the metric by which the game assigns a kind of beauty value to your tile. So each tile has an appeal that will take it all the way from breathtaking or all the way down to disgusting. There are many reasons to care about appeal, but let's talk about how you find the appeal of tiles. If you would like to find the appeal, the current appeal of your tiles, all you have to do is go over to lenses here, click the appeal button, and huzzah! Colors have arrived to indicate a variety of things. Additionally, you can just press the 1 key over and over again like this. It's a little bit annoying, but it pulls up the same lens. As you can see, my beautiful empire of greenness is mostly breathtaking and charming. And as you can see, Maya's a disgusting mess down here. So this appeal lens just basically gives like a color value. Visual learners out there, you're gonna love this. Gives you a color value to base your appeal off of. And then the key is on the side. It's important to have a key. We got breathtaking, charming, average, uninviting, and disgusting. Now, while this lens is great at giving you a general appeal overview, it doesn't really do a good job of diving deeper into what appeal actually is and how you kind of quantify it. In Civilization 6, different tiles interact with appeal differently. Each tile starts with a base appeal of 0 and then works its way up or down depending on the things that affect appeal. A good example of a zeroed out tile should be one of these tundra tiles with nothing around it. If you hover over the tile, any tile you like, it will give you the number for the appeal, which is different than the color. We'll talk about the numbers in a second, but this appeal is average. It is 0. It's just a tile with nothing around it that affects appeal. So we are zeroed out here with this snow tile. Water tiles do not have appeal at all. As you can see, I'm hovering over an ocean tile right now. It is not giving me an appeal tile because water tiles do not have appeal. The exception to this, and I don't think I have this exception in the game, is that if a natural wonder goes over to a water tile, that was very convenient, it will have an appeal number. So the only exception to water not having any appeal at all is if a natural wonder is on a water tile, then that tile will have an appeal number. Just like this Giant's Causeway that's on the water right now. While we're here, a few interesting tile interactions. Mountain tiles always start with a base appeal of 4. So I hover over a mountain tile right here. We are at 4. Natural wonder tiles, I believe, start with a base appeal of 5 instead of 0. So this natural wonder here should be about 5. Let me see if I can find another one to illustrate my point. I will be right back. Natural wonder, where can I find another natural wonder? Huzzah! I have found Mount Roraima, and maybe Anvar's kept my little singing in. This should be 5 or more. Yeah, there we go. Breathtaking 5, because that is kind of its base starting point there for a natural wonder. Before we move forward, it is now time to consolidate the differences between the color system that is on your screen and the number system we just talked about. The reason why there are slight differences to these systems is that there's no cap on the top end or the bottom end for how disgusting or how breathtaking a tile could be. So if you hover over a tile and you look at the appeal number and it is between -1 and 1, that tile will be average. It will also be gray because that's the color assigned to average. Anything that's -2 to -3 appeal will be uninviting and will be that weird rusty orange color. This is the weird rusty orange color and it's -3. Now here's the key. Anything -4 or less, it'll keep going down. You can really up a tile, okay? Anything -4 or less will be disgusting. Here I have a fantastic example of what I was just talking about. This disgusting tile right here is -4, which is indicated with the disgusting color, right? But this tile right here is -6, which is two whole bad appeal worse than the -4, but it has the same color. So when you're working with disgusting or breathtaking, the colors don't actually keep changing. It caps out there, but the numbers can keep going down or keep going up. On the other end of the spectrum, anything that is +2 or +3 appeal will be charming. Let's pick out a charming tile. It should be +2 or +3. Huzzah! It is +2. We are doing a great job so far. And then anything 4 or more will be breathtaking. But if you take a look at all of these breathtaking tiles, this one is 9. This one is 9. This is 5 whole appeal higher than 4, yet it's still breathtaking. So just keep that in mind, that the numbers keep going, but the colors do not. Now that we know how appeal kind of works, the colors, the numbers, all of that, let's talk about some of the ways you can change appeal and actually make your tiles breathtaking or disgusting, depending on what you're going for. Just keep in mind, I will not be able to remember or hit every single... There's probably some great person that changes appeal that I'm forgetting about. Let's just hit the main ones. There might be a few that slip through the cracks here. The first place you're going to want to go is actually to the Civlopedia, and you are going to hit neighborhoods and appeal. And it's going to we'll talk about neighborhoods later, but this appeal part at the bottom is rather interesting. The first thing I'm going to point out, the bottom of this list here goes over some of the ways that you can either add or take away appeal from a tile. But what's interesting is most of these things apply to adjacent tiles. So when you're doing these things, most of the ways to affect appeal do not affect the tile you're placing the thing on. They affect the tiles around it. An example of this would be -1 appeal for each adjacent mine. So if I were to put a mine on this tile right here that is 6, it would not affect the appeal of this tile that I'm putting the mine on. It would affect the appeal of every tile around the mine. So this tile here would go from 3 down to 2. This tile here would go from 3 down to 2 because the mine is adjacent to it, but the things don't usually affect the tile you place them on. Let's just take a brief peruse through the list and see if we can find some themes here. You got +2 for each adjacent natural wonder. So that's not something you can really control. That natural wonders are either there or they aren't, but it's still really nice. A lot of these are district based, so you're going to get extra appeal for any tiles that are next to a holy site, a theater square, an entertainment complex, a canal, or a dam. A dam! That was just fun to say. I apologize. You also get holy sites. Why is this multipled up? Firaxis, why is this duplicate? The internet Firaxis duplicated a line and forgot the canal. This is a duplicate line with less information. I am appalled at this oversight. Anyways, you get +1 for each adjacent mountain. So not only do mountains have good appeal, but the tiles around them typically have good appeal. Look out for your preserves. Look out for your national parks. Good places to start. So let's keep mountains in the back of our mind here. Coast, woods, or oasis. Awesome stuff. On the other end of this, you also have districts that make the appeal worse and not better. You have industrial zones, encampments, airports, or spaceports. Boo! You suck. The tiles are ugly now. Get out of here, NASA. You also have rainforests, marshes, or floodplains. If something gets pillaged in like a natural disaster or like the enemy comes in to conquer you, you're probably going to die anyway, but hey, all your tiles will be disgusting on the way out. And then you got mines, quarries, oil wells, offshore oil rigs, and airstrips as well. So while I can't go over every single example, generally if you're looking for good appeal, you want to do all the things that give you the plus appeal and not do many of the things that give you the negative appeal. If you don't care about appeal, which will happen in a lot of Civ games where you just won't care at all, feel free to do as many of the negative appeal things as you would like. There's a couple of important points here that I would like to make just while we're in this section of how appeal works. The first, let's talk about rainforests and marshes for a second. Woods will also come in here, but we'll talk about woods kind of separately. Let's say you have a rainforest and a marsh, and it's giving a tile negative appeal. I have spent 1,000 of my hard-earned gold for this example, but let's say you are dealt a pretty bad hand and you would like some good appeal, but you have all these marshes in your territory. Once you remove the marsh, you remove the negative appeal benefit, right? So each tile has a base level of appeal, and all it does is it gets affected by the things around it. So if you either add or remove things around it throughout the game, it will change the appeal. For instance, this tile's appeal right here is 2. So theoretically, if I go right now and remove this marsh, it should be 3 because I removed the -1 bonus. Huzzah, now it is 3. The marsh was giving it -1, bringing it from 3 down to 2. I remove the marsh, it goes back up to 3. If I remove this marsh, it'll go from 3 to 4 because I'm taking away another -1 thing. And then if I plant woods here, it'll go up to 5 because I'm adding +1. I hope that kind of illustrates how you can manipulate the appeal of one specific tile. Speaking of woods, this is usually the way in which I most manipulate the tiles that I would like to have good appeal. Out over yonder in the conservation civic, it takes a while to get here. This is not something you can do early in the game. It's certainly something you can plan around early in the game. You can, in conservation, plant woods, allows builders to plant woods a second growth. So these woods you plant do not affect the chopping. You cannot keep planting and chopping woods to get a wonder out really quick, but you can plant woods to either get a lumber mill or to get the appeal, or both if you're not going for national parks. So let's talk about planting woods. The reason why planting woods is kind of the best, easiest way to manipulate your tiles and add appeal to them is you can do it almost anywhere. If you take a look at the appeal of my empire, it is super duper freaking green. And that's because I planted woods everywhere. Look at all this. All of these tiles are planted woods. Like in the middle of my empire, I'm just planting woods for appeal in this particular game. Look at that preserve. Oh, it's so sexy. Right, but you can see throughout my whole empire, there's woods everywhere. And that's adding so much appeal to all the adjacent tiles. Additionally, planting woods will add multiple appeal to the same tile like we just talked about. So part of this strategy is if I plant woods on these 2 tiles here, then this tile is getting +2 appeal, not just +1. And so planting woods, such a great way to really immediately, as soon as you unlock conservation, start really ratcheting up the appeal of your empire. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what is the purpose of appeal? In which games do I want high appeal? In which games do I not care? Well, let me tell you at least my brief take on it. Everything with Civilization is very nuanced. This is a complicated game with a bunch of complicated situations. But generally speaking, my advice would be culture victory games are the games where you are most concerned about appeal. There are very few games in which I go for a culture victory that I don't really try hard to manage my appeal and make sure I'm doing all the things that are lifting my appeal up and avoiding many of the things that are pushing my appeal down. This was a culture victory game that we won. We had 927 out of 867 on this turn, so we are absolutely killing the game. And as you can see, the just sheer amount of green in my empire was a big part of that. The reason why appeal is most important in a culture victory is because it unlocks a lot of the conditions that you can use to create a culture victory from your empire. Things like national parks require a bunch of high appeal tiles. So we have a load of national parks in our empire, probably at least 20, right? And they all require 4 high appeal tiles. Seaside resorts require high appeal tiles. So all of these things that you are doing to try and attract tourists to your empire require high appeal tiles. Building wonders, which is something you will do just in any game of Civ, also give tourism, but they also give appeal to the tiles around it. So building wonders also kind of helps snowball the appeal thing, which helps you put more national parks down, which helps you put more seaside resorts down, which can really get the ball rolling. So while appeal isn't directly it doesn't directly influence a culture game a whole heck of a lot, what it allows you to do in terms of a culture victory is heavily affected by how high your appeal is across your empire. Now, as we mentioned, there are a few different things you can do that require high appeal. So let's assume you've already decided you wanted to do these things, or you might be deciding you want to do these things, so you're going to focus on appeal. Well, what are some of the things you can look out for if you have high appeal in your games? First is going to be these preserved districts. Now, we're going to do preserved districts works in another video, but basically the preserve district will give you more yields if the tiles around it have higher appeal. Once you put a preserve district down, the buildings are going to give you better yields based on the greatness, the beauty of the appeal of the tiles that are adjacent to them, right? So this one, the grove here, will give you food and faith for each adjacent. They need to be unimproved, but that's for another video. Charming tiles, right? So if they're not at least charming, they won't give you anything for this building, right? But once they're up to breathtaking, they give you 2 food, 2 faith, 2 culture. Awesome stuff. So when you're putting down your preserves, if you've already got a lot of appeal or some space where you can put some woods down and get that appeal higher, the grove will be fantastic for you. Same with the old sanctuary. There she is. Same similar thing here. You get a little bit of science and gold for charming tiles, but science and gold and production even greater for breathtaking tiles. So good preserves like this directly benefit from having high appeal, not just in culture games, in any game where you think a preserve might be a good idea. And so if you have these high appeal tiles, you will unlock the ability to build good preserves. In this game, I was able to build 2 incredible preserves just because of the appeal of my tiles. The next is national parks, of which we have many. We've done a video on national parks before. Look that up if you're interested in knowing how the national parks work. But basically, they need 4 really high appeal tiles as well. Now, unlike the preserve, national parks are a little more niched for culture games, although the era score and a few other things might be a little bit relevant in other victories as well. I typically find myself only really going for these, or at least like directly trying and making an effort for them. If you accidentally get them in a science victory, it's not a big deal at all. They're fantastic anyways, right? But national parks are going to need 4 high appeal tiles. The national parks are part of the reason I also made the distinction between the colors and the numbers earlier. A national park's tourism output is equal to the total appeal of all the tiles included in the park. What that means is 4 breathtaking tiles will give you, right, what is that? 4 by 4 by 4 by 4, that is 16, right? If you just have 4 regular breathtaking tiles, you will get 16 tourism from that national park. But the color is going to stay green. If each of those tiles is 10 appeal, now you get 40 tourism from the national park, right? So with national parks, you want to follow the numbers more than the colors, but national parks will actively continue to get better the higher you jack up that appeal, regardless of whether you hit the breathtaking color or not. The next kind of general thing you will have to deal with in most games regarding appeal is your neighborhood districts. Neighborhood districts are a great way late in the game to jack up the housing in your empire, get the populations a little higher, and it is solely based on appeal for the amount of housing you're going to get. As you can see here, if you just Civilopedia the neighborhood, you are going to get more housing based on the appeal of a tile. If your tile is disgusting, it's only +2 housing. If it's breathtaking, it'll be +6. Everything else kind of falls in the middle. I'm assuming that's because the more appealing a neighborhood is, the more people are going to want to live there. But that's something that every Civ can build that will be affected based on the appeal of your tiles. Now, none of this means that you need to be solely focused on appeal in all of your cities, right? The appeal only ever really affects the tiles immediately around it. So you can see we have this whole big fat green empire. I'm still building an aerodrome up here to have planes. I'm just making sure to do it in a place where I don't need the appeal of those tiles to be good, right? So don't take this as you either go for appeal in all your cities and you're going for it, or you're not doing any of the things that are going for negative appeal. In your games that you're going for high appeal, you still might want to build some industrial zones. You still might want to build some airstrips. You still might want to keep some rainforest and marshes around if you're going to build the Atemanaki or you're going to build the Chichen Itza. There are loads of reasons to do the things that give you negative appeal or to keep the marshes and rainforests around in a game where you're going for it. So again, Civ is a very nuanced game, even in this super hyper-focused culture game where the whole empire is just littered with green because that's what I was going for. I'm still doing a few things that give negative appeal. So just keep that in mind. Everything's on a spectrum. You're not either going to gun for it or just completely ruin your whole empire. All of your Civ games will fall somewhere in between, and practice playing the game will help kind of guide you as to how best to navigate that spectrum. This is going to be weird because you are currently looking at a Canada game in Civilization 6, but let's talk about some of the other Civs and unique kind of quirks you might run into with appeal depending on who you're playing. If you are playing as Australia, you will get bonuses to a few of your districts based on the appeal of the tiles they were placed on. I had to take a look at the wiki just to make sure I remembered, so let me just read right off the wiki for you so I don't get this incorrect. If you are playing as Australia, If you put a theater square, a holy site, a commercial hub, or a campus on a charming tile, you will get +1 of all of those yields. So culture for theater square, science for campus, etc. If you put it on a breathtaking tile, you will get +3. So for Australia, the appeal of your tiles matters more for placing your districts than it would if you were playing another Civ. Brazil alters the appeal of rainforest from -1 to +1. So if you are playing as Brazil, without talking too much about the Civ, because there are reasons that that's in the game, but if you're playing as Brazil, you might want to leave your rainforests around instead of chopping them, because they are actively helping you with appeal instead of actively hurting you, which they will be doing with all the other Civs. Bull Moose Teddy also has a few cool things that it does with appeal. It kind of passively gives you science and culture based on how high the appeal on your tiles are. There's also some weird qualifiers about where they're placed. Basically, if you spawn into a super green area as Bull Moose Teddy, there's going to be some science and culture being thrown your way. But just know if you are playing Bull Moose Teddy, you can read up on that when you pick the Civ. But you will be getting some science or culture based on how good of a job you're doing with appeal. A lot of that, though, is just how the tiles you start with are already kind of in the game. A lot of it isn't how you affect the appeal going forward in that game. But hey, you know what? Bull Moose Teddy has some cool things that you can do with appeal. Additionally, Bull Moose Teddy also gives you 1 appeal to all tiles in a city with a national park. So if you're looking to up the appeal of all the tiles in your city, you can build a national park there. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang, more appeal. Hooray. It took me a while to find it, but I had an inkling in my brain. Mapuche also has a kind of unique improvement called the Chemamol? The Chemamol? The Kamamamol, however you want to say it, is probably correct. Anyways, that needs to be placed on tiles with breathtaking appeal as well. If you decide to build the biosphere, +1 appeal to tiles adjacent to rainforest and marsh in your empire, this pretty much counteracts the negative effect. So unlike Brazil, which jumps rainforest from -1 past 0 to +1, this one will just take rainforests and take them from -1 to 0, effectively not giving you a negative multiplier, but not giving you a positive one either. And it'll do the same with marshes. So if you have like 87 marshes, you built a good Atemananki, and you're like, hey, I still want the good appeal for all of this stuff, building the biosphere is going to help a little bit with that. And finally, the big shebang at the end. If you would like to drastically improve the appeal of the tiles in your entire empire, you will go to the Civlopedia. You will search the Eiffel Tower. You will put on your best French accent. I'm not going to do it, but you're going to do it. And you will read this description. All tiles in your civilization gain +2 appeal. Must be built on flat land adjacent to the city center. So if you want to improve the appeal of your whole empire, just the whole thing, every single tile you own that aren't the water ones, feel free to build the Eiffel Tower, and that'll just mega boost all of it. I know people keep asking me for a Pantheon tier list, and I will do one eventually. We're getting around to it. The only thing I did want to call out here is Earth Goddess. If you are playing with Earth Goddess here, you will get +1 faith from all of your tiles with breathtaking appeal. It is one of the better Pantheons to pick, even since the Nerf Goddess patch came through. And so if you are picking Earth Goddess, you will be more focused on your appeal than not, regardless of whether it's a culture game or anything else. There's literally an unlimited amount of things. You guys in the comments are going to hit all of them, and I don't want this video to be an hour long. There's like, go to governors. There's a whole bunch of things you can do with appeal here as well. Parks and recreation is going to give you the ability to construct a city park, which is a whole nother appeal thing. So keep searching, keep being curious, keep asking questions in the comments, keep hitting up the Discord to ask your questions in there. I could go on and on. I would love to recommend the Civ 6 wiki to you. There's a whole page on appeal that you can just read from top to bottom and get a lot of information there as well. But I hope leaving this video you have a better understanding of how appeal works, how to affect it, how to modify it, which districts, buildings, situations, etc. you will be focused on appeal and which you typically won't be. If you enjoyed this video, there's a like button, there's a subscribe button. Make sure you thank Onvars for editing this video. He's doing a great job. We love paying Onvars each month. He's incredible. Make sure you head to the Twitch link and the Discord link as well. Thank you guys so much for thank you so much for watching this video, and have a very appealing rest of your day.